Hello, everybody. It's time to bring out the chart again. And it's really, really good news. Furry Weekend Atlanta just released its numbers. And we're going to be going over that today. So, get ready. It's fun time. So, g'day, everybody. How's it going out there? Today, we're going to be going over Furry Weekend Atlanta. Now, Furry Weekend Atlanta just held its convention, first in-person convention since the lockdown, since COVID-19. It did hold virtual events over the course of the lockdown, so it kept people piqued and interested during the duration of the lockdown. But luckily, we heard good news that they're doing rather well, and we're showing signs of recovery here for getting into the endemic phase. Now, just so people know, earlier this year we've had conventions starting to open up again, and at a few conventions there have been people who have tested positive after the convention. Fortunately, most of the ones I know of were vaccinated, and most of the ones I know of have recovered. If anyone has heard any different, please let me know. But I have not heard of any unfortunate fatalities of people who have attended conventions due to COVID-19 as of yet. And I hope it remains that way. But always be sure, if you go to the convention, be sure to get tested before you go. Be sure to get tested after you go, just to be sure that you are not passing it on to anyone unwillingly and unwittingly. So, that being said and that out of the way, let's get into the numbers of the recovery. So, they believe they raised $50,000, which is a really large amount. But they are also now the third largest convention. So let's go over the chart really quick. So we updated the numbers into the thing. Before I go into our deep dives into the thing, and this is being a pain in my butt, because of course it is, now that I have my mask on, and my furry glove is causing the... Just drop it. There we go. Is it still being stupid? Yes, it's still being stupid. I don't know why it's doing that. Just drop it, man. Did you drop it? Okay. Hit the escape key to drop that, apparently. Never had that happen before. I grabbed the key and I shook it. It's like a key. And I grabbed the key and I shook it around, apparently. So, that little flub aside. Let me try it. Let's see. So you can click and it'll drag all around, and you just have to hit like escape or something. Apparently that's a Google tool. Who knew? Now you know, and now I know. So for the future. Anyways, as you can see here, I did say in the last time we did cover convention numbers that Furry Weekend Atlanta, depending on what numbers it received this time, would probably show that it is now going to be the third largest convention. But before we couldn't really tell that because Furry Fiesta and Biggest Little Fur Con, didn't get a chance to shine. Now, Biggest Little Fur Con is yet to happen this year. It is very possible that Biggest Little Fur Con might come down from might drop a little bit and then pop right back up. Because you can see the red line and the orange line. The red line has a delta, estimated delta that is a little bit negative. But that is because of the corona recovery percentage, on top of the fact that before coronavirus, the convention was kind of slowing down in growth anyway. But we'll see what happens in the future. If Biggest Little Fur Con maintains it's going to have to grow quite a bit this year in order to surpass Furry Weekend Atlanta. So I believe, at this point, and I'm feeling safe to call it, that Furry Weekend Atlanta has now arose to being the third largest furry convention in the world. Meanwhile, Anthrocon and Midwest Furfest are a little up in the air now because of Corona's disruption. The Midwest Furfest did hold a convention last year, and it was one of the first furry conventions to hold conventions again after coronavirus. And you could see that it dropped down to close to where Anthrocon is, which is the blue line from purple to blue. And so you can see that this year really is going to show what conventions are going to come out of the coronavirus in a better position and which ones are going to come out in a worse position. And I may even want to check on making sure that the lowest conventions here, which I think in this case is the yellow-ish. I think Eurofrance right now is the lowest on the top 8 here. But it's always good for me to check at the end of the year to make sure that the top 8 are still the top 8, and maybe there's a 9th one that's going to pop in. Maybe if a 9th one does start to pop in, I'll add it to the chart until it passes it, and then kind of see where it goes from there. So, that being said, congratulations to Furry Weekend Atlanta. I know on... Interestingly enough, in the month leading up to Furry Weekend Atlanta, there was an announcement of a musical band, and that caused some contention and drama in the fandom. But despite that contention and that frustration by furry musicians about, bringing in mainstream talent, it seemed if that mainstream talent came in and it brought up these numbers in the way that it did, it seems like it's working out in favor of that it's working out in favor of the convention. Now, of course, the convention, I don't know whether or not I don't know if the convention knows basically how many people were brought in simply because of that musical talent that they brought in, or because of coronavirus, or because of recovery from the pandemic. I think that there is a bubble that is happening right now where we're recovering from the pandemic and things like that. And one must note here, going back to our charts and moving our line graph away, that according to the data, this is the largest growth that Furry Weekend Atlanta has had in the last 10 years, since 2010. And I could say that because you'll see there's a section up here, which is our big numbers, the ones we usually care about up here. So these are basically the attendance rates. But down below it, we have deltas, basically. So the deltas are basically the change in attendance from year to year. The ones in red are estimated right now, and those are estimated based on a factor of their growth in the past, but also with a modifier of the corona recovery percentage, which you can find at the bottom. This is after I had already put in Furry Weekend Atlanta. It was at 80-something% before I put in Furry Weekend Atlanta. Now with Furry Weekend Atlanta's huge growth, it has caused COVID recovery percentage to almost get back to 100%. We're almost fully recovered, according to this thing, which really doesn't have too much scientific merit. It's just an estimate. But it looks like we're reaching the end of this and we're getting into the endemic phase, at least over here. The disease is still going around, and one must do caution in order to prevent themselves from getting it. But it seems like we're at the phase where, people who are vaccinated can go out and enjoy things again, and basically risk of illness is lowering a little bit. The risk of serious illness is lowering, though for those with immunocompromised, obviously it really is unfortunate. But we have to remember that for folks who were immunocompromised, they had to deal with stuff before as well, and those are always precautions that they have to take. And being aware of that and being empathetic of that is a very important thing. But you also have to remember people with immunocompromisation existed before the pandemic, and they've had to deal with con crud whenever they go to a convention. They have to take their precautions, and they know how to work and help themselves, and as we as a community can help them out in any way we can, that's excellent. But they also, it's just do your due diligence when giving way to other people and being patient with them. So at the end of the day, we have a recovery, and that recovery has basically stemmed that we're basically trying to get back in the swing of things. Now, I will say this, as everyone starts to move again and all these moving parts start to move again, there's a bit of rust in the gears. And what I mean by rust in the gears, I mean there's inflation going on. There's costs of everything is going up. Cost to attend conventions will probably go up. Cost of traveling to conventions is certainly up. You got gas prices going up, probably plane tickets going up. There's a lot of pent up demand, and it's very possible that as we start to push back into these things will start to overclock a little bit. And so, like, as you can see through the deltas here that I mentioned earlier, this line that I'm on right now and toggling through is Furry Weekend Atlanta's line. And Furry Weekend Atlanta's line, this last delta between when it was last taken, which is that purple number here, and our current number, which was just announced, which is the yellow one here. So the key here is that the purple ones were the last conventions that were held before coronavirus, and the orange or the yellow is the first one afterwards. So I just flatlined them basically during any cancellations and things like that. Further confusion is currently gray because they announced that they were postponing January of this year. I have not heard anything back from them. As far as updates to this, updates to closures, there hasn't really been any major announcements for upcoming ones other than Harvest Moon at this point. All the other ones have passed us by, and as you can see here, further confusion says they're going to announce whether or not they're going to have a future convention this year. I do not know whether that's going to happen or not, but here it is in gray, and the estimations are in red for the ones that haven't happened yet. So it really depends on Anthrocon. If Anthrocon really recovers and has the same sort of growth for this year, we're going to see a major shift. So this 8,967 is a very conservative estimate. It's estimating that there's a negative 891. But if we're talking about percentages here, and we're talking about Furry Weekend Atlanta as an example, you can see that this is the largest one, and it goes down, and like you can scroll over, and none of them have been this high ever. There's been no deltas. The last time we've had a growth this significant in Furry Weekend Atlanta was the 2016 and 2017, 2017 to 2018. It looked like they were going to grow by 1,000, and then they tapered off. So, like, is this a burst? Is this a bubble that's next year it's going to go back down? I don't know. But certainly coronavirus has caused major disruptions to the way that I chart this out. So if we take that into consideration, then this conservative estimate of 8,967 for Anthrocon could very well burst above 1,000 just like they did. Because as you can see, before coronavirus, Furry Weekend Atlanta was actually starting to grow slower than Anthrocon was. So if they're going to have a same burst of things, we can do really quick math here. So we have, how much of a multiple is this? So what you can do is I'm going to take E to the M. 18 divided by is it J 18, right? So that's 3.48 times that. So if I take that number, well, it's 3.46 times basically a 300% delta growth, 948. You have 3,620 and 80 attendees popping in. So if that is the case, instead of the 300,000, the 381 here, I can replace this number. And what the heck? Isn't it supposed to? Thought I was supposed to increase that. But anyways, that's not how the formula works. It's the other way. So basically, like, if there's a difference between negative 381 and 3,000, and that's 3,500, so that would be off by 3,500. And if that happens, where you have 9,348, and you add that new delta, which is calculating under my thing as, and then you can't see this at all. God dang it, I'm sorry. Do that all the time with this. Trying to keep track of 3 screens in my brain at the same time. Alright, so you can see the delta there, and I calculated on the far right here. We have this thing here, and then this thing here. So if that's the delta instead of this, then the maximum of the thing will be 9,348 plus 3,280 would be, that's not right. Why did it do that? Man, I cannot do this with fursuit head on. 12,628 as the maximum. I mean, that's quite a freaking range. You can fit a bus through it, but like that's the range. Conservatively, 8,967. Liberally, 12,628. And if it is that much, then that'll beat. That'll beat Midwest Furfest for at least this year. But whether or not Midwest Furfest will be surpassed, or Midwest Furfest will be surpassed, depends on Midwest Furfest 2022. Which, if that same liberal thing happens at that point, I'm probably just gonna go, well, I don't know whether or not it's going to do it, and I'll tweak my numbers based on that. So, nerdy stuff aside, congratulations everybody who got through, because I think we're knock on wood, not narking on anything, not to put our damper on anything, but we may have just gotten through this, and we may just be getting out on the other side. So I haven't attended a convention yet. I don't know whether or not I'm going to be attending Anthrocon yet or not. I don't really have any goals or motivations in order to do so, especially with gas prices the way that they are, especially with, like, if I don't have an objective or a reason to be going to some place like that, I usually don't. I can be a furry in my own time. I don't need to go to a convention. I've always respected conventions, and I've always respected conventions as a social experience, but I've never been reliant on them. So to me, it's like, unless I have a motivation to go to Anthrocon this year, or some sort of reasoning, I probably won't. But things can change. I have the time set aside just in case. Not like I'm using it for anything else. But hopefully you all, whoever did attend these opening conventions for this year, for the past, there's been 5 conventions that have opened up in the top 8 so far. So we only have 3 more conventions that are in my top 8 charts here that need to open back up, which are Anthrocon, which is going to happen coming up in only a few short months. Eurofrance, which is Eurofrance, which is going to be happening this summer in August, just after that. We have, and Further Confusion, which may or may not be holding a convention this year, or may be holding until next year. We do not know. So, thank you very much for watching this video today. If you like the kind of content, kick the like, kick the subscribe button. If you have any feelings or comments, please kick a comment in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching and listening to this Roo Ramble. We will see you guys next week for our next video. Have a good one. Freaking glasses, man. Oh, glasses. All right.